The ship was silent, drifting like a broken shadow in the endless dark of space. Metal plates were torn open, sparks flashed from dying circuits, and the once mighty war vessel now looked like a graveyard. Only one figure moved inside the ruined corridors, breathing heavily, each step echoing in the hollow silence. This was Commander Thalos, the last survivor of his crew. All others were gone, lost in the fire and vacuum when enemy weapons ripped the ship apart. He had sealed the doors, fought the flames, and watched the life of his friends vanish into the void. Now he was alone, and death was close behind. The air was thin, the oxygen nearly gone, the ship's power was weak, and the engines were silent. He had little time left, yet his mind burned with fear, not of dying, but of what he was about to do. Thalos limped into the control room, his body heavy, his vision fading. There was only one option left, one choice his people had sworn never to take. On the console was an old beacon, hidden, sealed, forbidden. The words of his commander echoed in his head. Never call Earth, never. He remembered the stories told in whispers, stories of the Deathworlders, the humans, a species born on a hostile planet where everything tried to kill them. They were survivors, monsters, warriors. Depending on who told the tale, some said humans were saviors, others said they were destroyers, but all stories carried the same warning. If you call them, you will pay the price. Thalos stared at the beacon, his hands trembling. He did not want to touch it, yet he could not look away. The enemy who destroyed his fleet was still out there, waiting, hunting. If they found him, they would finish what they started. If he stayed silent, he would die alone. But if he sent the signal to Earth, then the humans would come. For a long moment he closed his eyes, breathing shallow. He remembered his crew, their faces, their laughter before the war began. They had trusted him to save them, and now he was the last. Perhaps, he thought, humans would save him too. Perhaps the stories were wrong, perhaps mercy was not a myth. With a trembling hand, he pressed the switch. The beacon came alive, a low hum spreading through the broken ship. A pulse of light shot into the void, carrying a single message: SOS. This is Commander Thalos of the Veyron fleet requesting aid. Coordinates attached. The moment the signal left the ship, a chill ran through him. It felt as if he had opened a door that should have remained closed. He whispered to himself, "Forgive me, I had no choice." Far away on hidden channels, other ships heard the beacon. Pirates, traders, and warlords. Their screens lit up with the same code, an SOS to Earth. Their reactions were instant. Panic. Fools. One captain spat, "They called the humans." Another whispered in terror, "This system is cursed now." Even enemies forgot their battles, retreating from the sector as if death itself had been summoned. Thalos, weak and exhausted, collapsed beside the console, his eyes half closed, his body broken, but inside him burned a spark of hope. He had sent the message and Earth would hear it. Rescue was coming, or doom. And in the cold silence of space, the broken ship drifted on. The beacon pulsing like a heartbeat, a warning. To all who dared to listen, across the stars the signal spread like fire. It traveled through empty space, bouncing off satellites, passing through forgotten relays, echoing across systems that had not seen war in centuries. And everywhere the code was read, one reaction was the same: fear. In the trade routes near the Karun belt, a convoy of merchants received the transmission. Their captain froze, his scaled fingers trembling as the words appeared on the screen. "An SOS to Earth," he whispered, his voice dry. The crew stared at him, confused, until his eyes hardened. "Shut down the beacons. We leave this sector now." No one argued, for all of them had heard the same stories. Far on the rim, inside a pirate stronghold, warlords laughed at nothing, but when the distress signal reached their screens, their laughter died. One pirate lord rose, his voice shaking as he shouted, "Cut the comms, erase the logs. If Earth knows we heard this, we are finished." Even cutthroats who feared nothing lowered their eyes in silence. In the great halls of alien empires, the message arrived too. Generals, kings, and priests stood in silence as the words glowed before them. Some cursed the Varans for their foolishness. Others whispered prayers to forgotten gods, but none dared to interfere. For once Earth was called, no one else could act. Legends painted humans as both saviors and monsters. A deathworld race forged by storms and fire. On their world, gravity was heavy. Predators were merciless and nature itself killed the weak. To survive there, a species had to be ruthless, clever, and unyielding. And humans were all those things and more. Across the galaxy, the name of Earth was not spoken lightly. Children were warned at night. Behave, or the humans will come. Rulers used it as a threat. Do not betray us, or we will call Earth. And entire armies had crumbled simply at the rumor that humans might intervene. Commander Thalos, still weak in his ruined ship, did not know that his call had spread terror. He only knew silence, waiting for an answer that might never come. But the galaxy knew, and the galaxy trembled. In a council chamber of the Oriath Empire, voices rose in alarm. They have done it. One elder cried, "The Varans called the Deathworlders." Another hissed, "Then this sector is lost to us. Should we warn them?" A younger voice asked, desperate, but the elder only shook his head, his eyes dark. No one warns those who call Earth, they chose their fate. Meanwhile, in the dark corners of space, fleets began to move. Not toward the Varans, but away. Entire trade routes were abandoned overnight, stations were sealed, ships vanished into the void, all to escape the shadow of Earth. For everyone knew what followed the signal. First came the silence, then came the ships. Not just ships of war, but ships of judgment, and when humanity arrived, they never left empty-handed. Back on the broken vessel, Thalos dreamed faintly. In his mind, he heard voices, warnings from his training. Never call Earth. They are not mercy. They are power. But his body was too weak. His choice already made. The beacon pulsed on, a steady rhythm against the stars. Every pulse was a reminder. A call that could not be undone. And while Thalos lay broken and fading, entire civilizations held their breath, because the Deathworlders had been summoned, and nothing would stop them from answering. The silence of the broken ship was heavy. Only the low hum of the beacon echoed through the corridors. Commander Thalos lay against the cold wall of the control room, his breathing shallow, his eyes half closed. He was alive, but only just. The wounds across his body burned with every breath. Shards of metal cut into his armor. Blood soaked the floor beneath him. He had lost too much already, his ship, his crew, his home. But the heaviest weight was not his wounds, it was the choice he had made. The beacon pulsed beside him, steady and unforgiving. He could not take it back. He could not undo the call. Earth had heard him, or soon would, and if the stories were true, then his life and the lives of his people would never be the same. He remembered his commander's warning. Long ago, before the war, they had stood on a training ground under the twin sons of Vera. The commander's voice was sharp, echoing through the ranks. "You will hear of many powers in this galaxy, but none are feared like the humans. Never call them, never trust them. If they come, it will not be rescue, it will be conquest." Back then, Thalos had laughed with his comrades. The humans were myths to them, ghosts from a different age. But now, as his body shook with weakness, he wished he had listened, for the beacon was alive, and he had broken the ancient law. His mind drifted in and out. He saw the faces of his crew, the laughter they shared, the promises they made. They had believed in him, followed him into the void, and one by one, he had lost them. Some died in fire, others in silence, their screams stolen by the vacuum of space. He was the last, the only one left to carry their memory. A noise stirred him from his fading dreams. The comms console flickered, a faint static whisper. His heart raced, pain forgotten for a moment. Someone or something was answering. He dragged himself closer, blood marking his path. The screen glowed faintly, lines of code shifting across it. Then a voice came, cold, steady, human. "This is Earth Command. We received your signal." Thalos froze, his throat dry. He had heard many voices in his life, but never one like this. There was no warmth, no anger, no emotion at all. It was a voice of iron, a voice that spoke of power, He tried to answer, his words broken and weak. Yes. This is Commander Thalos requesting aid. My people are dying. For a moment the comms were silent. Then the voice returned, calm as before. Aid is possible, but understand this. Help comes with conditions. The words cut through him. Not rescue, not comfort, but conditions. Even in his broken state, he felt the weight of those words. This was the truth the stories had whispered. Humans did not give, they traded, and the price was always high. Thalos closed his eyes, tears burning. He had called them, he had summoned the Deathworlders, now it was too late to regret. Too late to turn back. Somewhere in the dark, beyond his dying ship, engines roared to life, massive and unstoppable. The humans were coming, and the last survivor of the Veyron fleet would soon learn what price he had paid. The broken ship drifted in the endless dark, its beacon still pulsing. Commander Thalos pressed his back against the cold wall, his eyes fixed on the glowing comm screen. The voice had spoken once, calm and steady, and then silence returned. That silence was worse than the void, worse than the fear of death. He leaned forward, coughing blood. Earth Command, he whispered. Please, answer. His voice cracked, carried by the thin static of the dying ship. For a long moment, nothing came. Then, without warning, the voice returned. We have received your signal, Commander Thalos. We know your location. The sound was sharp, precise, and cold. There was no kindness in it, no warmth, only certainty. Thalos shivered, not from the chill of the ship, but from the weight of those words. They knew where he was, instantly, effortlessly. How far did their reach extend, he wondered. How powerful were they truly? He tried to speak, his throat dry. My fleet is gone. My people are dying, I beg you for help. The voice answered without pause. Help is possible, but conditions apply. Those words echoed inside him like a blade. He felt his chest tighten, fear rising higher. Conditions. Humans never did anything freely, never out of mercy. The legends had said it, the elders had warned it, and now he was hearing it with his own ears. What conditions? He whispered, his hands shaking. The screen flickered, lines of human code shifting across the display. Then the voice came again, slow and clear. Surrender your coordinates, your data banks, your military archives, all. Transmissions, all logs. Submit everything you hold and we will come. Thalos felt his heart sink. They were not asking for his survival. They were asking for his world. He could already see it. Their ships arriving, taking what they wanted, leaving nothing but silence behind. His people would hate him, curse him, call him traitor. But what choice did he have? He was alone, broken, dying. To refuse meant death in this empty void. He pressed his trembling hand against the console. Yes, he whispered. Take it, all of it. The ship's dying systems linked with the human signal. Data streamed out, his people's secrets pouring into the hands of strangers. He felt his stomach twist, guilt clawing at him. But he told himself again and again, I had no choice, I had no choice. The human voice spoke once more. Transmission received, coordinates confirmed, do not attempt to move, do not attempt to hide, we are coming. Then silence. But this silence was different, heavy, final. Thalos closed his eyes, his breath shallow. They were coming, far beyond the broken ship in the black corridors of space. Something moved, engines roared, but no ordinary engines. Ships unlike any other. Vast, dark and sharp, silent hunters slipping through the void. No warnings, no banners, only speed and precision. The Deathworlders were already on their way. Thalos tried to imagine what they would look like. Would they be saviors clad in shining armor? Or monsters, as the stories told, he did not know, and fear clouded every thought. But one truth burned in him. He had summoned them, and they would come. He pressed his head back against the wall, eyes heavy. Around him the ship groaned, metal twisting in silence. He whispered to himself, half prayer, half curse, forgive me. And out in the darkness, closer with every breath, the humans answered not with words, but with engines. Their arrival was not a question. It was a promise, and promises from Deathworlders were never merciful. The void was silent, but silence never lasted long where humans were involved. Commander Thalos lay half-conscious inside his ruined ship, his body broken, his hope flickering like the dying lights above him. He had given them everything, his data, his secrets, his surrender, and now all he could do was wait. At first it came as a vibration, so faint he thought it was only his heartbeat. The metal floor beneath him trembled. The air felt heavier. Then, through the fractured window of the command deck, he saw them. Shadows in the void moving faster than thought. Not one ship, but many. Sliding into the system with precision no other species could match. They did not announce themselves. They did not send warnings. The humans arrived like predators, silent and absolute. Their ships were not beautiful like the curved designs of the Oryath. They were not grand like the shining fleets of the Celery. The human vessels were simple, angular, brutal. Every line, every plate, every weapon screamed of one purpose: war. The lead ship cut across the void, black as the night around it. Its engines burned with controlled fury. Its weapons glowed like the eyes of a hunter. And for the first time since the beacon was activated, Thalos felt true terror. He had called them, and now they were here, on nearby stations. Alien observers watched in silence. Merchants abandoned their cargo, pirates fled to the shadows. Even enemy fleets that had once hunted the Varens turned away. No one wished to be in the path of Earth's arrival, for when humans came, they did not simply enter a system, they claimed it. Thalos forced himself upright, pain tearing through his chest. The comm screen flickered to life again. A human face appeared. Not a monster, not a beast, but calm, cold, and unreadable. The eyes stared at him, not with anger, but with something far worse. Judgment. Commander Thalos. The human voice said, smooth as steel. Your signal was received, your data confirmed, assistance is now in progress. The words should have been comforting, but they were not. Every syllable carried weight, every pause carried threat. Assistance, yes, but at what cost? Through the cracked hull window, he saw smaller ships detach from the fleet. They moved with terrifying speed, docking onto his crippled vessel like insects crawling onto prey. The sound of metal locking against metal rang through the ship. Moments later, heavy footsteps echoed in the corridors. They were inside. Thalos tried to rise, but his legs betrayed him. All he could do was watch as the door to the command deck slid open. They entered. Humans, armored in dark suits, faces hidden behind glass visors. Their movements were precise, disciplined without hesitation. Not rescuers, but soldiers. One of them stepped forward, scanning him with a device. Another moved to the console, accessing systems with ease. They spoke little, their voices clipped and professional. To them, he was not a commander, not a survivor. He was simply an objective, a task, a resource to secure. The human who scanned. Him finally spoke. Stabilize him, prepare for transfer. Cold hands moved quickly, injecting him with something sharp. His pain dulled. His body grew heavy. The last thing he saw before his eyes closed was the human fleet outside. Dozens of ships holding their position like wolves circling a dying beast. The arrival of Earth was complete. The Deathworlders had come. And for Commander Thalos, salvation and damnation now walked hand in hand. When Commander Thalos opened his eyes again, he was no longer inside his ruined ship. The ceiling above him was smooth metal, the air clean, the lights cold and white. He turned his head slowly, pain dulled by whatever injection the humans had given him. He was alive, but he was not free. Around him, human soldiers stood in silence, their armor black, their visors reflecting the light. Every movement they made was measured, efficient without waste. They were not here to comfort, not here to heal. They were here to control. One of them spoke in a clipped tone. The subject is awake. Prepare for transfer. Before Thalos could speak, the door slid open. A figure entered, different from the soldiers. The armor was lighter, the face uncovered, a human with pale skin and sharp eyes. The gaze cut through him like a blade, calm but merciless. This was not a rescuer. This was an officer. The human stepped closer, his voice steady. "Commander Thalos of the Varen fleet, you requested aid. You sent us your data, your location, your surrender." Thalos swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Yes, you saved me," he whispered, his voice weak. The officer's expression did not change. "We do not save, Commander. We secure." The words struck him like a blow. Secure. Not rescue, not mercy, but control. Thalos felt his chest tighten as the officer continued. "Your fleet is destroyed, your world fractured, your people scattered. We offer protection, but protection has a price." The room grew colder, or perhaps it was only his blood freezing. He forced himself to ask, his voice trembling, "What? What price?" The officer leaned closer, his eyes never blinking. "Your allegiance, your resources, your obedience, your people will yield, or they will not survive." Thalos felt his heart pound in his chest. So it was true. The legends had not lied. Calling Earth was never a plea for help. It was a contract of chains. They had saved him only to bind him. His choice had doomed more than himself. It had doomed his world. Memories of home filled his mind. The green skies of Vera, the shining towers of his capital, the laughter of children running through the markets. Would they now see human fleets above them? Would they see soldiers walking their streets? Would his people spit his name as the one who invited the Deathworlders? He closed his eyes, shame burning through him. The officer's voice broke the silence. "You are alive because we allow it, Commander. You will return to your people as our message. They will see you and understand that Earth does not give without taking. And when they resist, we will remind them." Thalos's hands clenched weakly against the table. Resist, he thought. Yes, they would resist, but against this enemy, resistance meant extinction. The officer straightened, his soldiers moving in unison. "Prepare the fleet. The integration begins," he commanded. Without another glance at Thalos, they turned and left the room. The doors sealed shut with a sound that echoed like a prison gate. Alone once more, Thalos lay in silence, his mind heavy with despair. The beacon had brought the humans, but not as saviors. They had come as rulers, as predators cloaked in promises of protection, and now he understood the true meaning of the warning whispered through the galaxy. Never call Earth, they had said. And now, as their fleet spread like fire across the stars, Thalos knew why. Commander Thalos sat in silence, his body weak, but his mind restless. The humans had left him in a chamber that felt less like a sickbay and more like a cell. He could not move freely. Every door was locked. Every wall carried silent watchers, small black devices that followed his every breath. They were rescuers in name only, but jailers in truth. He tried to push away his thoughts, but the stories came back. The whispers he had heard as a child, the legends spoken in hushed voices by the fire, tales of the Deathworlders. At first they had seemed like myths, warnings for young ones who misbehaved. But now, after seeing their ships, their soldiers, their officers' cold gaze, he understood. The myths were not stories, they were memories of truth. He remembered one tale clearly. An elder once told of the planet Arovan, a proud and defiant world. When Arovan fell into chaos, they too had called Earth. The humans came swiftly, their fleets blotting out the skies. They brought peace, yes, but peace forged with fire and steel. Arovan never rebelled again, because there was no Arovan left. The world was remade in the image of Earth, and those who survived spoke only whispers of what had been lost. Thalos shuddered at the memory. He had thought it exaggeration, a story to frighten, but now the pieces fit too well. The way other species fled when his beacon went out, the way merchants abandoned routes, the way empires silenced their halls. It was not superstition, it was survival. The whispers of the Deathworlders carried across the galaxy like a shadow. Some called them saviors, the last resort when no other hope remained. Others called them executioners, who answered prayers only to chain the ones who prayed. but all agreed on one thing. Humans never left empty-handed. The chamber door opened with a hiss, pulling Thalos from his thoughts. Another human entered. This one without armor, dressed in simple gray. His face was plain, his voice calm, yet his words carried the weight of command. "Commander Thalos," the human said, "you will live. Your people will live. But they must understand this. Earth does not forgive betrayal, and Earth does not show mercy." The words were not shouted, not forced, but spoken like an undeniable law. As if gravity itself were being explained, Thalos forced himself to speak, his throat dry. "Why do you do this? Why answer our call only to bind us?" The human's eyes did not soften. "Because we are a Deathworld species, Commander. Mercy was burned out of us long ago." And then he said nothing more, turning and leaving with the same quiet steps he entered. The door closed again, and Thalos sat in silence. But the words echoed in his skull. Deathworld species. He thought of Earth, of the world described in whispers, a place where storms tore cities apart, where predators stalked even in daylight, a planet that did not nurture, but punished the weak. From such a world, what kind of beings could rise? Only survivors, only conquerors, only Deathworlders. Thalos closed his eyes, and in that moment he no longer doubted the legends. The humans were not devils nor angels. They were something far more dangerous. They were the product of a world that demanded strength above all else, and they carried that demand into the stars. The beacon had brought them, and now they were here. The whispers of the Deathworlders had become his reality, and soon his entire people would learn what those whispers truly meant. The human fleet hung above the broken system like silent predators, dozens of black warships, each larger than the ruins of Thalos's vessel, blocked out the stars. They did not drift, they did not wander. They held position with perfect discipline. To the rest of the galaxy, it was a warning written in steel and fire. Inside one of the massive ships, Commander Thalos sat in a chamber that felt more like a courtroom than a medical bay. The walls were plain, the air too clean, and two soldiers stood at either side, their weapons idle but ready. He was not chained, but he did not need chains. The presence of the humans alone was enough to bind him. Then the doors opened, and a figure entered. The officer from before, the one with sharp eyes and a voice like cold iron. He stopped before Thalos, his hands behind his back, his gaze unwavering. When he spoke, the chamber grew colder. "Commander Thalos," the human said, his tone calm and final. "You sent the signal, and we came. You will live. Your people will live. But understand this. We do not give mercy. We give balance." The words struck Thalos like a blade. Balance, the humans called it. But balance, by their measure, was nothing short of domination. He tried to speak, his voice trembling. What does that mean?" The officer's gaze sharpened. "It means your people exist because we allow it. Your survival is no longer yours to decide. You live under our watch now." The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. The soldiers beside him never moved, never blinked. They were statues of judgment, watching as the truth settled in. Thalos lowered his head, shame burning within him. He had wanted salvation, but what he had called down was rule. Still, part of him tried to resist, tried to hold on to the pride of his people. "We are not slaves," he whispered, his hands. Trembling, the officer leaned closer, his eyes like ice. "No, you are not slaves, Commander. You are an example. A warning to the rest of the stars." Those words froze Thalos more than chains ever could. An example. He realized then what the humans truly wanted. Not just his obedience, but the obedience of every species who watched. By taking the Varans, by bending them, Earth would remind the galaxy of the price of calling them. The officer turned, his voice carrying across the chamber. "You will return to your world. They will see you alive, and through you they will see us. Speak to them. Tell them what you have seen here. Tell them what Earth is." Thalos stared, his chest heavy. "And if they resist?" he asked, his voice breaking. The officer stopped at the door, looking back only once. Then they will learn that Earth does not repeat its warnings. The door closed, leaving Thalos alone once more. His heart pounded, his mind burning with fear and guilt. He could almost hear the whispers of his ancestors, warning him as they always had, never call Earth, never. But he had called them, and now he carried their warning within his own chest. He was alive, but he was no longer free, and soon neither would his people be. Above the system, the human fleet waited in silence. Their presence alone was the message, a warning written not in words, but in warships. The Deathworlders had spoken, and the galaxy trembled at their voice.